I figured out that I wanted to make videos about things that I could talk about briefly, because I often find myself elaborating on something for like hours during the day, and when I try to wrap it up, it actually gets neatly put together in just a few sentences. I struggled with whether it's worth making short videos, because the last ones I've been doing were like 15 to 20 minutes long, and it always takes me fucking days to make them. And each of those days is separated by a month because, you know, life and all that everyday crap. But when I thought about it, I myself much more prefer short videos of about 3 to 5, or even let's say 10 minutes. I much more prefer those to a freaking huge pile of a video. Well, unless it's a podcast, because I love podcasts. Anyway, I decided I'm just gonna go for it and make short videos and talk about what I want to talk about besides HBO's Rome. And I'm just gonna call this series of clips The Way I Get It. And this will be the first episode of TWIG, T-W-I-G. This is the cool acronym I got out of it. And on this first TWIG video of mine, I want to discuss the model for the life of an empire. If you haven't seen my channel before, and you probably haven't, I'm a fan of history and an enthusiastic amateur in the field. And I want to discuss the model, so to say, for the lifespan of an empire, because I watched recently this documentary by the BBC with Mary Beard called Meet the Romans. If you're a fan of history, and more specifically the Roman Empire, you should totally check out Mary Beard. She's simply amazing. She's one of those scholars interested in washing off the legends and romanticized crap. All of the unrealistic preconceptions of traditional knowledge and education, all of this she tries to tone down in her documentaries and lectures as much as possible. And she has these several documentaries, I think at least the ones I've seen. Meet the Romans is one of them. She has a new one that came out recently on Pompey, and she has one on Caligula, and even one lecture that I watched, I remember, on ancient Roman sculptures, portraiture and stuff. She was awesome there as well, though she did kind of have, I don't know, some subjective points, but everyone has their own fucking opinion, and she's bound to have one as well. Anyway, I recently saw Meet the Romans, and there she talked about how the city of Rome was a consumer machine that welcomed everyone and made a melting pot of many nations and cultures. How everyone could have his own tastes, religion, and whatnot. Anyone could be tolerated as long as they didn't oppose Rome. So, Rome as a consumer machine and a melting pot and a new place for everyone to join. All of that sounded to me, and I'll make it clear why, all of that sounded to me like USA. I made this immediate reference because I am a student of English philology, and for the last 4 years of my life I had to deal with UK and USA culture all the time. We basically explored all the history, literature, and, well, everything else behind these two countries. And the basic and most luminous words that have stuck in my brain when it comes to the foundation of the US is this melting pot reference and then this consumerist philosophy. So melting pot and consumerism, those two elements are the same ones that Mary Beard referred to in her documentary on ancient Rome. So I asked myself this: is the US like Rome? And this is probably old news to most people, but fuck it, I'm an amateur and I talk about whatever I come up with, whether relevant or not. There's a certain level of freedom that comes with being an amateur, and I exploit this freedom with the greatest and no-fuck-givingest of pleasures. Well then, is the USA like ancient Rome? And in this line of thinking, isn't every single empire slash country slash nation like ancient Rome? I've observed this with almost every fucking single political and national entity throughout the history that I've studied. And I use the word almost because right now I can't think of an example of the opposite. So Rome, Egypt, blah blah blah. Great nations turning into empires, then crumbling under their own weight. And I make this immediate association between the US and Rome, all the while knowing there's probably tons of other melting pot consumerist countries that I'm not quite knowledgeable of. But moving even further along this line, aren't all countries just melting pots? You know, I'll never understand fucking racists, and neither can I understand the need that historians and patriotic wisecracks feel to claim some kind of origin on their nation and label their blood and race. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? There is no single race that is not mingled with another one, at least at this point in time. I mean, races may have been clearly divided when we were just still partly walking monkeys in different habitats before they started coming into contact, but now at this point, everyone has been fucking with everyone ever since the first caveman neighbors shook hands. Could you please tell me how the fuck can you expect to find a clear origin of your race and nation? Because I see this everywhere. For example, in my country, Bulgarians argue about whether they're Romans or from Thrace, or whether they're fucking Huns and whatnot. You know what I say to that? Bulgarians comprise of Romans, Thracians, Greeks, Huns, blah blah, who all fucked each other. So, where the hell was I? Is America like Rome, and what's the life of an empire? I think America is like Rome, with one difference though. Rome fell apart and exhausted itself in the course of like 2000 years. That's considering the Eastern Empire. But the US will exhaust itself a lot quicker, because we live in the age of information, and the philosophical processes of existence stages go through people's brains a lot faster, if that makes any sense. It does to me anyway. Just this easy access to information is like, I don't know, tough life. It makes you wisen up and grow up faster, but it also kills you earlier. And about the stages of life of an empire or a developed country, I don't want to bother with thinking about every one of them, but just the last one. What happens to an empire when it hits its sunset stage? Well, since this isn't the ancient or medieval times where people could just pull a Carthage on each other, the last phase that a country hits is it being a vegetable, meaning that its people stop acting for their own sakes. They just become like the doormat for the other great countries, the other great players of the day, to use and rule as they see fit. I'm taking this example, well, I wouldn't say exactly Rome, but let's say Egypt. Greatest civilization ever. Afterwards it gets humbled, and then Greeks come to rule it, then Romans, then everyone else but Egyptians. Look at my country also. Bulgaria was at its peak till the 14th century, and then it fell, because the Ottomans took it. And then in school, we study all this crap, how it got freed from the Ottomans, from their yoke in the 19th century. But note this, freed by Russians. How the fuck is that freeing in any way? The Ottomans and Russians just swapped seats. Then we became communists, then we hit democracy, and etc. But I say the real Bulgaria went down in 1396, and since then we've been a doormat, literally. It's just the normal outcome of every nation's life, as opposed to a possible medieval massacre. I don't think massacres are effective anymore, because humans have fucked so much shit. No matter how many people you kill, there's still gonna be more. Take that, Hitler. So is America like Rome? Which stage of life is the US in? Yeah, this is for my first episode of The Way I Get It. Just gonna cut it off, because I think I fucked up the length again.